where's this report coming out of? Like, who's the one?
Well,
Rarely does it happen this way, right?
Well, you had Amick at first. The other one is Matt Moore.
And Keith too. But like what I'm saying is like who are they talking to? Are they talking to Bill Duffy, like Aaron Gordon's agent? Like, I mean, I can't imagine it benefits Danny Ainge or anyone on the Celtics side to leak that information. I don't know why it would benefit.
I would guess it's the Orlando's camp putting this out.
I assume it's Orlando's, and it might not even be real to sweeten the pot to get something else somewhere else. So you say Boston's got 2 firsts. Who else is coming to the table? You got 3 days here. So absolutely, a lot of this could be misdirection. So we're talking about it hypothetically. It's more, would you do it? Whether or not it's real or close, who knows at this point. If you're Danny, though, can you afford to blink? So at this point, like, let's say in the offseason, we don't know if he was waiting out Gordon in Indiana and that ended up backfiring and you weren't able to get anything there, and you got stuck. And now you're in a situation where if you do this, you've got it, but you're holding out hope, hoping it's only this. Can he afford to do that? Like, if it's, if you're trying hard to not include a thing, but you know that thing's going to get it done, do you do it? And that could be Romeo or whatever. Who the hell knows what that third piece is? Romeo, be a player. I'm not saying, you know what I mean, but.
Yeah, I don't think the framework that's being discussed is getting enough value for Smart. The only reason you would trade Marcus Smart is getting enough value for him. And I don't think this is it, especially if you're taking money back on. If you have to flip a guy like Tristan Thompson to make this work, it's just too complicated and overdone, I think, for it to clearly be an upgrade for the Celtics. And that's what they have to do with this deal. Drop off the assets that they don't necessarily want to. If you're going straight to the top for this and still holding on to additional picks and young wings on the roster, I'm not sure you're definitively better. Gordon might be a better option in the future, more worthwhile spending your money on, stuff like that. But you're losing your top playmaker, your top defender right now, and a volume shooter. And that's the big difference right now when we compare these two as shooters, Gordon and Smart. Smart's willing to take 11 to 15 threes a game off the dribble, and that can be valuable. It can be on any given night, especially in the playoffs. Like, Gordon's not and I know he did it against Brooklyn on Friday, but he's very rarely going to be a guy who's spotting up, taking 8 to 15 threes and winning a game for you like that. So I think Smart's, if you're just talking 1-for-1 Smart for Gordon, I still think Smart's more valuable in a vacuum. But if you're talking about moving that value to the wing with a bigger body and maybe a guy who could improve his potential here, I guess it might be worth it. But as far as this Fournier, Gordon, Smart, Thompson thing goes, plus 2 first-round picks, I think the Celtics lose that deal.
But it's cap gymnastics, and again, this is what's frustrating here is, I know they're hard capped, and you have to find ways to make it work, but this is what this all comes down to at this point, and it might not make you necessarily better, but it's cap gymnastics and looking ahead to the future.
Right. Yeah, but Bobby's point, I agree with, is, you bring in a guy like Gordon and let's say you ship out Smart, you're running into the same issue you had when Smart was injured. You have all these guys that don't distribute, they don't play make, and you're asking them to all do something that they don't typically do, or it doesn't make them great. So it's almost like you might make the deal for one reason and it might help you in one way, but then maybe it hurts you in another way. I mean, I don't, when I look at Brown, Tatum, and Smart, it's very obvious to me that something is not clicking with these guys. I mean, they're all like thinly veiled, like calling each other out or something over the last week. Like, everyone needs to step up and take responsibility and all this stuff. It's like, it hasn't worked over the last couple of years. I don't know if it's just gonna click with them. So maybe a shakeup like that is what they need. Again, I don't know if it makes sense from the X's and O's standpoint and how everyone fits with each other on the court. But from a personality standpoint, maybe this is the type of a little shakeup that they need to get the ball rolling in the other direction. That's the only reason I can think Smart would be included.
Sam Amick just kind of doubled down on Matt Moore's report, as was first reported. And he's saying, again, the way this is structured, as Bobby said, was going to be complex with multiple teams and multiple deals to make it work, because you can't really do what they're proposing to do, but it would involve Smart going over and it would involve Fournier coming here. So again, that's in the full exception. So
that could make it more enticing if you bring in a point guard probably worse than Smart through some third team. You start to think about this a little bit more, and the Magic are probably happier bringing in whatever fits in for Gordon's spot, because Smart's a wing, but he's really a guard. I don't think he'd be filling like a regular wing spot for them. So I don't know if Denver would get involved with some of the pieces they have to give up to various players here. I know they have a backup point guard that would probably help the Celtics a little bit, wings that they're willing to give up on the Orlando side, and they've been involved in these conversations. The key right now is Portland, because I think if Portland gives up Gary Trent, this is done.
They're not saying, I mean, right now, and again, Amex says it, and I know this was what Matt Moore reported as well. It's only Denver right now that's in play, and Boston's clearly ahead. So
yeah, but does Denver shift to being facilitator in that position?
I don't know if Portland is in the mix anymore. Again, just the way it's being reported. I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but that's what you're looking at this point. So take that for what it's worth.
I'll say this
from Orlando, man. Like, there's so many options that it's just like doesn't really, like, when you're talking about someone like Marcus Smart, you're just like, yeah, Gordon's probably the best. He's the best piece out of that group. But after that, I think it's maybe not a significant drop off, but like, who's really excited about those pieces?
Well, why does everybody hate Fournier?
He's been the 2 straight postseasons and did absolutely nothing in both
I know,
of
but
them.
I mean, I think people are sleeping on like his numbers. And again, I know you're doing it on a bad team, but like, you realize he's averaging 19 points a game, and last year he averaged 8. Like, this is a double-digit scorer. I mean, it's not, you're not grabbing a guy who's a back end of the rotation bench fodder. I mean, it is a legitimate, 30 minutes a game. He's averaging 19 points, 45% field goal, 38 from 3. This is not bad. I mean,
it's worse than Smart though, isn't it?
What's that?
It's worse than Smart, because that's effectively what he would become on this team.
All of a sudden now you have 4 wings and a couple. I mean,
but then he's gone, right?
Yeah, I'm saying just this year, your lineup becomes completely different now, where all of a sudden you've got 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", all over the court all the time, which again, the style that they like to play. You do theoretically have a bit more spacing, because at least it's Fournier over Semi Ojeleye. You have bench scoring, you have other things. You lose your facilitator. That's a problem.
So this is how people have to think about that too. And I think you do have a point there, John, is that in this trade, you would effectively be trading Tristan for Fournier, which I think people could live with. And then Smart for Gordon, which people might have a tougher time living with. But those two trade-offs could effectively make you better. Yeah,
those are the trade-offs. And then you don't have to worry about Tristan next year, and you don't really want to deal with that. And you might use that money to re-sign other people. So it's not just what you do now; it's what it allows you to keep down the road. So I think there are a lot of pieces involved here, which is why it's a complicated deal. But you're right. At the end of the day, people are just going to look at it and be like, "We gave up Smart," and that's going to look. We talked about this yesterday. You do a trade. It's going to hurt a little. So in order to get somebody, it's not like I said, Jimmy.
This would get so weird cap-wise.
I've been joking all year. You're not just sliding a piece of paper across the table and say, "Here you go, give me a player for this money, for this piece of paper that says 28.4 on it."
Here? This is IOU. Okay.
It's gonna hurt. And Smart, that's gonna hurt a lot of people. And I don't know if it makes you better. And now everyone's gonna debate Collins versus Gordon, and we did that. Are there other? If you're gonna give up Smart, is Gordon the best you can get there? It seems like the Celtics are fixated on him. We went through it yesterday.
I like your Lonzo Ball idea. I like that one.
I mean, that's my favorite one, and I would do that like that, and I would extend him before I would extend Gordon, but that's me. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, if you're paying this premium now, if it's a couple of picks and Smart, and you think that could get you a different guy, is Gordon the guy you want?
I'm just not crazy about it. I like the idea of pairing those guys together,
Yeah.
Again, there's another tier of talented players that I think Marcus Smart could be a centerpiece of a package deal along with those picks, But, it's like what you said. Danny's up against it because next year, that contract gets a little hard to trade. I mean, I guess it all depends on who you're trading for and which team is willing to take on an expiring deal. But
yeah. Well, Gordon's going at this point. He's demanded the trade, and he's going somewhere. So this is your shot to get him if you want him effectively. I don't think there's any way they take him back in. In fact, he's probably played his last game with Orlando after the events of today. So he's going somewhere. It's just going to be, is it you? Are you going to be able to hold this out and get the price that you want? And I do think what works in Boston's favor is if Orlando's trading into the TPE, they get to cut all that money outright. And I think that's an advantage for a team like Orlando. Like, do they want to take back Smart and Thompson and do all this stuff? Not ideally, I don't think. And so, like, what's the benefit there for them? So we ask who this comes from. I don't know if it's from Orlando. It might be from Gordon, who wants to get out of there and wants to get to Boston, which could be an advantage for the Celtics too.
I don't know. Gordon, that'd be pretty high level GMing from Gordon to be able to put this together and throw out the rumor and like do all the cap math, you know, like it's a pretty sophisticated.
This is what still makes no sense for me, because this would effectively be Gordon for 2 firsts, Thompson for maybe like a second and a second deal, and then Smart for Fournier, which I think the NBA looks at that and it's like, what are you guys doing here? Like, I think you're going to need a third team.
It sounds like they might, and that might just be, you know, right, an intermediary to.
And maybe that makes this make more sense for everyone involved. Because if you're Orlando, are you trading Gordon when you have other chances to deal him here for 2 Celtics first, Thompson, who signed for 2 years, and Smart, who's probably going to leave after a year? It's not ideal.
I think this is your best shot to trade Gordon now for them. So I think their best offer they're going to get is going to be here at the deadline versus in the offseason. And I think that's why they're looking to do it, which is we talked about teams suffering from paralysis, you know, like
they would have to
do nothing and then just kind of wait and see if something better comes along, unless somebody has a gun to your head, you know, and that's where you end up getting cornered. You know, because you're like, crap, I'm out of options here, and you could just lose an asset for nothing. I think Orlando has decided we're okay trading him. Where are we going to get the best deal, now or in the offseason? And I think it's now. So I think they are serious about making the move. It's just, again, from a Celtics perspective, what does it do for you? I don't know. I don't know.
If their guys demanding a trade, I mean, how much power does Orlando have right now? I mean, really,
that's true.
Need to get rid of him, right? So
what have we learned about players and trades? Like, they go where they want to go.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that the real encouraging thing about this, that it seems like he wants to be in Boston?
Versus the other suitors at this moment. Yes. Yeah. When it's Houston, it's like, you know. You know.
Oh, what a weird trade that would have been. Oladipo for Gordon. And then I would have been banging on the table. Why couldn't they get this done? So I ultimately want to see something like this get done.